always want to stay one step ahead. And if you do this consistently in fantasy football, your friends will never catch up. So here are 5 running backs that will ruin your fantasy draft. You want to avoid them. J.K. Dobbins often goes as a top 20 running back. Right now, on average, he goes as the 21st back off the board. But this is too soon given the risks. I mean, yeah, he tore his ACL as a younger player last August, so he should be back in theory in time, but it wasn't just his ACL. This was a complicated injury. And thanks to this lovely injury article by Pro Football Focus and Doctors and Combinations there, you're going to have an ACL plus LCL damage. So normally it's like 9 to 12 months recovery for the ACL. When you put that LCL on top of it, usually makes it longer and increases the risk at re-injury. And now as we get closer to the season, he's not participating in OTAs or mini camps or practices. And there's growing concerns Dobbins won't be ready for week 1, but it doesn't stop here. Because since becoming a starting quarterback in 2019 for like the entire year, MVP Lamar Jackson, he only targets running backs 16% of the time, the 4th lowest rate since that time. And this shows because in Dobbins' rookie season, he only had 18 receptions, 1.2 catches per game. I mean, that's not going to get it done, especially if you play in a half PPR or PPR league. So this lack of pass catching work, not having usage there, is a concern. And here's why. Teammate Gus Edwards is expected to be back from week 1 from his own ACL tear, but he doesn't have that LCL damage and he's on track to return. So you don't have any receiving game work for really any of these backs, but including Dobbins. And now you have Gus Edwards, who has been the 2nd most efficient running back in the NFL since 2018. Only behind this man, Nick Chubb. Yeah, when you have that guy in the backfield who's healthy and going to get carries probably before you if you're not back in time, it's not a good recipe for opportunities for Dobbins. And of course, it's not just Gus Edwards in this backfield. It's Lamar Jackson, who since taking over as a starting quarterback has averaged 71 rushing yards per game since 2019. So here's your takeaway. The best case scenario is Dobbins is healthy, but he splits the backfield with 2 guys and sees no receiving game work. But the worst case scenario is that Dobbins isn't healthy until midseason, or at least 100% healthy until midseason, yet your friends currently take him in round 5. And they also believe, mistakenly, that this next running back is a value. Patriots running back Damien Harris currently goes as a top 30 back off the board. And last season, he finished top 20 overall, but thanks to his 15 touchdowns. Those touchdowns actually made up 43% of his total fantasy points, the most of any running back last year. Now, here's why this is a concern. The 2 highlighted numbers here, 14.3 is the amount of points that he scored last year, and the 11.7 is the expected points he was supposed to score based off his touches. Not every running back is expected to score. Nobody really. 15 touchdowns. And if you were to take this 11.7 fantasy points that he should have averaged, that would actually finish 34th at the running back position, nowhere near the top 20 finish that he had. And let's not forget about Ramondre Stevenson, who was actually 15% more efficient per touch than Harris last year. In fact, Stevenson was a top 20 efficiency running back in the entire league as a rookie. And believe it or not, he actually played more snaps in their playoff loss to Buffalo than Damien Harris. So in the most important game of the season, they trusted him a good amount. So let your friends draft Harris and this next guy. Now, rookie Isaiah Spiller is drafted currently in fantasy leagues ahead of Kenny Gainwell. Even though Gainwell last year as a rookie, a limited sample, but still 100 plus opportunities, he saw 5.4 yards per touch. If he would have seen just a little bit more touches to qualify, would have been top 12 at the position as a rookie. And the assumption is that Gainwell is going to get better now, yet Spiller, as an unproven rookie, goes ahead of him in drafts, even though Spiller's combine, his athletic score, his measures, bottom 10% of all time. They were very similar to most undrafted running backs. Were not good. The main running back on this team is clearly Austin Ekeler, and it showed last year with one of the best roles in the NFL. He led all running backs with 94 targets, almost 6 per game, and he was 2nd. This was the big knock on Ekeler heading into last year. He doesn't see any red zone touches. Oh, he's so small. I mean, the dude's like 210 to 220 pounds. He's gained weight since his 199 combine weigh-in 5 or 6 years ago when he was coming out of college. So his red zone touches 2nd in the NFL last year. This is a good role. And then you factor in that this guy just never left the field. Nearly a 70% snap share, top 10 in the NFL. So what this is all suggesting is that for any Isaiah Spiller work to be had here, or significant work, it's going to take an Ekeler injury. And in his 5 seasons so far, Ekeler has only missed 13% of his games. And the other thing is that even if Ekeler was to miss time, knock on wood that he doesn't, but if he was to miss time, there's no guarantee that Spiller sees the commanding backfield touches. Now let me explain, because last year they used 3 running backs, 3 different guys. They used Joshua Kelly, Larry Roundtree, and current free agent Justin Jackson, who's probably the best of all of them, believe it or not. They used those guys in a timeshare as the backup. And this made it very difficult to target their backfield. Now, since they drafted Spiller, Ekeler, maybe he gets the first crack at it, but I still expect Kelly and Roundtree to be involved. Consider drafting a running back with more upside in these rounds, and now let's check out why you should avoid this 4th round pick. Cam Akers returned from his torn Achilles in a record time of just 6 months, but when he did return, he ranked dead last. Out of 147 graded running backs last year on Pro Football Focus, he was dead last. And he was also dead last in running back efficiency, but we shouldn't knock him completely for coming back in this historic time and wanting to get on the field with his teammates for the playoffs. But there is more to this story. According to Pro Football Focus, it takes explosiveness after a torn Achilles on average 18 to 24 months to return from, and then you're still going to have moderate risk after that. Well, given when Akers tore his Achilles, 18 to 24 months at the earliest puts him in January of 2023. This entire season, he won't be 100% healthy. And one more thing, Darrell Henderson will be involved. He ranks top 10 in pass protection since entering the NFL. And last year, when he was a starter while Cam Akers was out, he actually saw a top 12 opportunity share. This is just his carries, not even factoring in the targets that he saw, but week in and week out, it was like 18 to 20 plus opportunities, 90, 70, 80% snap shares. This means that the coaches trusted him. So Akers currently goes as a top 20 pick, but he's not somebody that I would take there. If you use my top 200 rankings, you would actually see that I prefer guys like David Montgomery, even Josh Jacobs ahead of a Cam Akers. And if you want my top 200, my tiers, the entire supreme cheat sheet for this draft year to beat your friends, dominate your leagues, just click the link in the description and follow the 2 simple steps. And not only will you get the cheat sheet, you also get a $20 Amazon gift card. So you put in $10 to acquire the cheat sheet on Prize Picks, and then you also get a $20 gift card. And if you don't like the cheat sheet, I'll refund you $10. You keep the gift card. So I mentioned that the coaches trusted Darrell Henderson in Los Angeles, but you shouldn't trust this next guy. When Drew Lock was a starter, he targeted running backs 13% of the time, the 2nd worst rate in the NFL. And this is not good news for 2nd round draft pick Kenneth Walker, who already struggles when it comes to earning targets, or at least he did in college. Doesn't mean he doesn't have the skill set, but we didn't see it. If he had the skill set, why didn't they show it in college? Odds are it's not there. And Walker can go in the Jonathan Taylor or Melvin Gordon route and actually start earning targets in the NFL, but that would be more so towards an outlier. He only had 13 receptions last season, a little over 1 per game. Now, fellas, let's dig a little deeper here. Walker was drafted in the 2nd round, and now he joins the slowest paced offense from last season, 32nd in the league with Seattle. This means they ran the least plays, about 56 per game. That 56 per game is 13% less than the league average and 7% less than any other team. Pete Carroll plays slow, he plays his way, he's bold, he's stubborn, and that's why Russell Wilson isn't there anymore. But that's not even the worst part for Walker. Walker's upside is going to be capped by teammate Rashad Penny, and Rashad Penny last year was the most efficient running back on a little bit of a smaller sample, but the most efficient running back in the league. 1st in yards per touch and 2nd in true yards per carry. Not to mention, Seattle just gave him a contract extension. He's a top 15 paid running back in the league with over $5 million, 90+% of his contract guaranteed. So here's your takeaway. Walker has actually been dropping in drafts, and Penny has rose over the last 3 to 4 weeks, but the guys around him still hold more value. I'll prefer Devin Singletary or Chase Edmonds with their skill sets in their offenses over these Seattle guys. So these are 5 running backs that'll likely ruin your fantasy drafts. But if you want to see 7 wide receivers in the middle rounds that can win you your league, then check out this lovely video right here. And also double check to make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel so you can smack your friends around in fantasy football.